Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, most gracious, ever merciful. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you, dear viewers. Welcome to tonight's lecture organized by the UK Talim Department. As per our tradition, we will start the program with the recitation of the Holy Quran. Can I request Mustajab Sahib to deliver the translation, the tilawat and the English translation, please?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. Alif Lam Mim. This is a perfect book. There is no doubt in it. It's a guidance for the righteous who believe in the unseen and observe prayer and spend out of what we have provided of them, and who believe in that which has been revealed to thee and that which was revealed before thee, and they have firm faith in the hereafter. It's they who follow the guidance from their Lord, and it is they who shall prosper. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Mustajab Sahib. Tonight we have the pleasure of being joined by Nisar Orchard Sahib. He is serving as a Tarbiyyat Secretary for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the UK. As always, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. These will be put forward to our guest on your behalf to the latter part of the program. Please type your questions into the live chat and kindly ensure they are relevant to tonight's topic. It gives me great pleasure to hand over to Nisar Orchard Sahib to deliver the lecture on worship.
Jazakallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Respected viewers, I'd like to wish you all a very, very warm assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As Shakil Saab mentioned, that tonight's subject matter is about worship. There are many strands of worship, but this particular strand will be based on cultivating and exercising moral values. And I will be trying to express this particular subject matter in way of poetry as well. I do have a number of poems I would like to share with you today in relation to the subject matter of worship. I'm certainly no authority on this particular subject matter, but I do have a responsibility within the Jamaat. By being Secretary Tarbiyyat UK, I have to try to endeavour and to encourage every member of the UK Jamaat to endear themselves to regular habitual worship of all kinds, which I hope to shed some light on it today. Uh, so, as I said, in the way of poetry, let me start off with the first poem to begin with, okay? Here lies a soldier whom all must applaud, who fought many battles at home and abroad. But the hottest engagement he was ever in was the conquest of self in the battle of sin, was the conquest of self in the battle of sin. Man, in the Holy Quran, man has been created to fulfill a definite purpose. I have not created the jinn and the men, but they may worship me. Chapter 51, verse 57. I have not created the jinn and the men, but they may worship me. The worship of God is not limited only to formal prayers. When one actually thinks of worship, ibadat, they think automatically of namaz and salat, the 5 formal prayers that is obligatory on us every day. So the worship of God is not limited only to formal prayer. It encompasses all thoughts, words, and deeds, which, when actuated, initiated with righteous intentions, becomes acts of worship. So basically, anything that brings you closer to Allah, that is an act of worship. As I said, not only just your 5 daily prayers, but anything good. And as I said, I based today's lecture on good deeds. And so basically, every word, deed, thought, or action with righteous intentions becomes acts of worship. Now, this basically is a definition of righteousness or taqwa, as we keep hearing that word. And the practice of taqwa will bring you closer to God. And the first poem I've read, the second poem is basically if there be righteousness in the heart, there will be beauty in the character. If there be beauty in the character, then there will be harmony in the home. If there is harmony in the home, then there will be order in the community. And if there is order in the community, and then there will be peace in the world. This is what we yearn for, peace in the world. When we look around on television and the news, we see certain, hotspots of violence like Palestine and Israel and many, many other places. And we feel for our Muslim brethren. We wish we could do something for them. Of course, we can pray for them. We could be charitable and hand in financial donations from afar. And so again, we all want peace in the world, and we do have our part to play in it, okay? And again, if we rewind one step at a time, we can have order in the community. Wherever you live, it's in a community. You want to have a peaceful community with good neighbors, getting on with your neighbors. And one step before that is your home. Everyone wants harmony in their home. When they come back to home from their works, they want a peaceful environment. People living in that home, husbands and wives, parents and children, they should be having good, healthy relationships that are conducive to an Islamic environment. But before you can get harmony in your home and peace in the world, there's one step before that, and that is beauty in your character. But to get beauty in the character, first of all, there has to be taqwa, there has to be righteousness in your heart. What is righteousness? Things are like patience and respect, sympathy, love, concern, and care and consideration, charity. This is what taqwa is. So to get peace in the world, you can play your part, but first of all, you have to have taqwa in your heart, and you have to apply. And when you apply, this is also a form of worship in which it can take you closer to Allah. Worship of God is the purpose of existence. A Muslim may enjoy a worldly career such as an architect, doctor, teacher, lawyer, property agent, or businessman. But of immense, more importance, or to him, should be his spiritual career. which will never shine as it should if he is more concerned to the attachment to worldly affairs. We do have to keep that balance, okay? Of course, we cannot ignore our worldly affairs, but we have to prioritize our spiritual career to our worldly career. Constant worship of God every moment of the day in the manner just described embodies the essence of Islam and is life's ideal for which a sincere Muslim should seek through God's help. Now, every moment we're talking about how can you worship God every moment? You know, in our busy lives, going to work, taking the kids to school, looking after the home, going shopping, every moment we should be engaged in worship of God. Again, if you're just walking down the street, you're on a bus, driving a car, you're by yourself, your mind should be full of the remembrance of God. That's another way of worshiping God. Here it says, thee alone do we worship and thee alone do we implore for help. Guide us in the right path. Islam teaches that the goal of life is self-purification, for which every Muslim should strive with the most earnest devotion and resolve. He should endeavor to shed light in every step, in every word spoken and written, in every glance and every action. There's so many actions, that one can make in order to bring yourself closer to Allah, to reach self-purification of yourself. And one of those actions that I'm just going to highlight, I really want to highlight how simple it is to bring yourself closer to Allah, to carry out worshiping without even realizing that you are worshiping, and that is smiling. Here's an action to smile, okay? It should be second nature to you wherever you go. Whenever I drive a car, I stop at the traffic lights, I look around, I just feel there's not enough happy-going people around. They've got miserable faces. They've got sad faces, okay? Just smile. It's so easy. This is an action, okay, that will bring you closer to Allah. It is a form of worship. And this poem called A Smile, okay, what I'll read out to you. A smile costs nothing, yet it means so much. It enriches those who receive without making poorer those who give. It takes but a moment, yet the memory of it may last forever. A smile creates happiness in the home. Remember I said earlier on about harmony in the home? Well, try smiling more, okay? A smile creates happiness in the home and is the sign of friendship. It brings cheer to the discouraged, sunshine to the sad, and is nature's best antidote to trouble. Yet a smile cannot be bought, begged, borrowed, or stolen. It is of no value to anyone unless it is given away. So share your smiles to other people. Some people are too tired to give you a smile, so give them one of yours. No one needs a smile as much as he who has none to give. The best of the smilers related by Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha is our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. He was the best of smilers, and we should follow his sunnah. So again, if you want to switch that moral light, that spiritual light on in your house, when you come back from outside, just smile. It will have an amazing effect, okay? Again, this is a form of worship, affecting people in a good way, bringing people together. This also brings people closer to Allah. Life is a battle, but the fruits of victory are always sweet. Man has to conquer all kinds of temptations, lures of the world, negligence, carelessness, and a host of imperfections. Final victory sometimes seems far away, almost out of reach. But God has promised success to those who persevere. And this matter has been explained by Hazrat Khalifah al-Masih II, may Allah have mercy on him, in the following encouraging words. Islam rescues man from despair and tells him that he can, in spite of his errors and mistakes, attain to the purity of mind and conduct, which is the highest goal of man. It thus encourages him to make constant efforts towards virtue and purity and enables him ultimately to arrive at his goal. So in order to get to your goal, there may seem to be mountains and obstacles and barriers in front of you. But this next poem is called Do Not Quit. Don't quit, okay? When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when the care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things go wrong that you mustn't quit. Okay? So again, just reflecting on the words of the second Khalifa, Islam rescues from all of this. Do not despair. These days, people feel they tend to give up so easily. They go into depression, into despair. But here, this poem says, never ever quit. You have to rely on Allah. You have to bring yourself to closer to Allah. And that is by practicing these moral virtues, these moral values. Your level of taqwa has to remain high and constant in any situation that you find yourself in, whether you're in a happy situation or a sad situation, whether you're in a difficult situation or an easy situation, you can still pull yourself closer to Allah despite which situation you're in by practicing moral virtues. Worship of God is the best of habits, and all habits can be cultivated. A cultivated habit is soon executed with the aid of little or no mental attention under the direction and guardianship of second nature. It just comes naturally to you when you cultivate these moral values. For example, a student typist in the early stages of training slowly finds and taps the letters with concentrated attention and even then makes numerous mistakes. But continued practice increases his speed and decreases his mistakes until eventually his finger speed over the keyboard, tapping out 120 words a minute in a state of mental relaxation and with no apparent attention to the movements of his fingers. The subconscious has taken command. These moral values, you will find them on the low-hanging branches of a tree ready to pluck, okay? They are there for you, but you do need to exercise, you do need to practice. And continuing on to this, habits of worship can also respond to natural impulses. The person who strives to be patient and is diligent in practice. So now we're talking about the virtue of patience, okay? The person who strives to be patient and is diligent in practice will, after due course of time, display patience automatically under the most exasperating tests, because this virtue of virtues, patience, is out of all these moral values, patience here is described as the virtue of virtues. It is the queen of virtues. So this virtue of virtues has become ingrained in his very nature as long as you practice it. In like manner, all virtues can be developed, all virtues, sympathy, respect, love, and care and consideration and forgiveness, and many, many more, but you need practice. In like manner, all virtues can be developed if given the necessary earnest attention. And as the virtuous life and the Islamic life are synonymous, it behoves every Muslim to fulfill the object of his creation by worshipping God through the cultivation of all virtues. Again, I have to remind you that worship, ibadat, is not just only your formal 5 prayers a day. It is about the cultivation and practice of virtues. And here, another patient, because I was talking emphasizing on patience here, I have a small poem in relation to patience and tolerance, okay? Until you have learned to be tolerant with those who do not always agree with you, until you have cultivated the habit of saying some kind word of those whom you do not admire, until you have formed the habit of looking for the good instead of the bad there is in others, you will neither be successful nor happy. Here presents us a test now, okay? In life, we come across all sorts of people, wherever they may be. They may be at workplace, at university, whether in the mosque or whatever, in your community. You know, you will come across difficult people, but you are expected to be above this, okay? You have to always, whenever you come across difficult people, one of my tips to you is think, if the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, if the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, if they came across difficulties and in their lives they came across many, many difficult situations, you should think the difficult situation you find yourself in, how would they behave and react to it? That's how you should behave and react. You know, the promised Messiah, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon them, you know, they, you know, forgive their enemies, showed a lot of compassion, and they are our mentors. And that's how exactly what we should be doing, to look for the good in people, to forgive people, to tolerate people, to look at the good things rather than the bad things. But sometimes people tend to flip, yeah, and show them anger and want some revenge. Well, by showing those characteristics, it will be taking you away from God, okay? You have to show compassion and forgiveness even to people who are difficult to you in life. Nothing worthwhile can be achieved without effort, though, okay? And the law holds good in matters of faith. God helps those who help themselves, and he expects, in fact, he demands Muslims to exert themselves in virtue, even to the extent that they should endeavor to excel one another in virtue and steadfastness. In chapter 3, verse 200, be steadfast and strive to excel in steadfastness. You cannot just give up. It's a life continuous exercise till the end of your life to be steadfast and to strive towards excellence. The purpose of man's existence has been clearly pointed out in the Holy Quran. Its attainment necessitates a willing readiness to adopt all ways and means in winning the pleasure of God and in avoiding his displeasure. No doubt the way is an uphill path, but it is the most rewarding of all undertakings. Worship of God is characterized by submission to God, which is the prerequisite of winning the pleasure of God. And who is better in faith than he who submits himself to Allah? He who submits himself to Allah. And at this point, you know, I do want to actually share a prayer with you, okay? You have to submit yourself to Allah in order to get close. It's a prerequisite. O God, in me thy holy love impart. Enlighten, comfort, and purify my heart. Watch over my conduct and help me to do only those things which are pleasing to you. May I be a heavenly reflection, cleansed from all satanic deflection. I want to imitate the Prophet's life, dissipating darkness and sinful strife. I want to bring mankind to thy throne, to obey, love, and honor thee alone. I want to suckle the divine succor, ready for death's inevitable hour. Bestow upon me the grace of prayer, always keeping me in thy loving care. Help me always to live as you require, devoted to you as a flame of fire. Illumine my soul with thy holy light. Hear my prayer in the stillness of night. Hear my prayer in the stillness of night. Grant blessings to this thy humble servant, whose prayer to thee is deeply fervent. Again, during the day, you remember Allah, zikr Allah. This is the greatest attribute one can possess when it is exercised, remembering Allah, zikr Allah, the remembrance of Allah. And in this particular prayer, what I do want to actually take out, and one of the lines here is, hear my prayer in the stillness of the night. Hear my prayer in the stillness of night. Here, this is referring to your tahajjud namaz. When everyone is asleep, Allah will be there. When you wake up, He will listen to you. If you talk to Him, He will reply to you. And we should get into this practice of this formal prayer as well, okay? Tahajjud. Again, it is a form of whether it's easy for some people, but it may be difficult for people. But we have these challenges in front of us, and you are capable of surmounting these challenges because you're ready. You're ready to do so many other things, but we have to now at the same time recognize the beauty of God, and we have to love God as well in order to practice all of these things. How much do all of these things that I've shared with you so far mean so much to you that it will convert you immediately to start saying your tahajjud namaz on a regular basis? Now I'm actually just touching on the formal prayers now, because Khalifa al-Thani, the second Khalifa, may Allah have mercy on him, in his epic work of Tafsir al-Kabir, he mentions that there are 7 steps for the acceptance of prayers in order for you to get closer to Allah. And those steps are, the first step is you offer your 5 daily prayers a day. Second step, you say it by congregation. Third step, you say it on time. Fourth step, you say it with translation. Fifth step is that when you're saying namaz, you're so fully concentrated as if you are seeing Allah and Allah is seeing you. Nothing else should come into your mind at all. The 6th step, I believe, is tahajjud namaz that I'm saying to you. Hear my prayer in the stillness of night. And the 7th step is to do more nawafil, always remembering Allah at all times. So again, the practical form of namaz is so important. It is obligatory. And, I can, as I said at the beginning, at the onset of this program, that, I do have an authority, but I do have a responsibility to remind everyone about their formal, obligatory 5 times a day namaz, that you should make a big effort these days during the COVID pandemic and the lockdown. Mosques have been closed and open, but nevertheless, our homes should be mosques now. And you should be saying, namaz by jamaat, by in congregation, with the family. And I look at these so-called difficult times, I look at it as the glass half full rather than half empty. I believe that this is a form of, again, worship. The families are coming closer together. They are saying namaz, they're saying their prayers more often by congregation. They're setting a good example. Again, that was one of the steps when, if you want peace in the world, then your family have to come closer together at all times in order for you to play your part in world peace, in order in your community, and in harmony in your home. The promised Messiah has been raised in this age. While we have to live in this world, nevertheless, we should not allow the greed and love for material wealth and pleasures to override our spiritual obligations. Life in this world is a fleeting existence. It comes and goes like a dream. The physical body is a shell containing the eternal self, the soul. Yet, through his foolhardiness or ignorance, man is more interested in his material welfare than his spiritual welfare. The promised Messiah has been raised in this age among the Muslims to rekindle love for Islam in their hearts and to invite all mankind into its fold. The promised Messiah successfully laid the foundation of his divine mission, and in order to present the message and spiritual efficacy of Islam, he commissioned his followers to mold their lives, to conduct. He commissioned his followers, yes, me, you, everyone, okay? He commissioned his followers to mold their lives and conduct wholeheartedly in conformity with the true teachings of Islam, and thereby practice habitual worship, regular worship. And this is actually instructed by our leader and head of our community, the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, and has dissipated through the Khulafa that they expect from us practice habitual worship. All the other things that take us away from Allah, we should remove from our lives. Whatever we are engaged in everyday life, whether it's television programs, whether it's on your mobile phone, whether you're exercising inappropriate things that are not conducive to Islamic living, we have to replace all of that. And this is an instruction. It is expected and demanded from us to reach these high levels. Just recently, in Hazur's concluding speech in the German Jalsa, two things I remember our beloved Hazur mentioned. He talked about, again, taqwa, the practice of taqwa. And at the same time, he talked about promises, about fulfilling promises. And when you make a promise, every time when we do bet, we are making a promise that we will uphold the 10 conditions of bet. And when you exercise the 10 conditions of bet, this is also another form of worship. And but more so in terms of the promises, Hazur says that people tend to talk about things, but they do not see it through with actions. Well, when you make a promise, okay, you're expected to keep the promise. When someone makes a promise to you, you expect him to keep that promise. And when you make a promise to someone, you're also expected to make that promise. If you don't, then you are possibly being deceiving or lying and whatsoever, and such things will take you away from Allah. And I actually want to more or less end this particular lecture, okay, with my last poem to you, okay? And quite suitably, it is called Promise Yourself. If you can't keep promises with others, then surely make a promise to yourself. You don't want to let yourself down, okay? So this poem is called Promise Yourself. But I want to give you a quick recap that Hazur's concluding speech in this year's German Jalsa, it was about taqwa, the practice of taqwa that brings you closer to Allah, which is a very important form of worship, and also fulfilling promises. So here is this final poem I want to share with you. It is called Promise Yourself, okay? Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. Promise yourself to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet. Promise yourself to make all your friends feel that there is something in them. Promise yourself to look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true. Promise yourself to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. Promise yourself to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own. Promise yourself to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to greater achievements of the future. Promise yourself to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile. Promise yourself to give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others. And promise yourself to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble in your life. And promise yourself to think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud words, but in great deeds. Not in loud words, but in great deeds. If you can promise yourself all of these things, and you will be very, very close to Allah. What I actually, the one actual line I wanted to go back to was that promise yourself to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to greater achievements of the future. You know, we are all human beings and we make mistakes. When we make mistakes, and sometimes we despair and go into depression, and we dwell over it. I made this mistake. How can I become better? Well, Allah always given you that door. He always left that door open for you to become a better moral person, but through this form of worship, by exercising and practicing moral virtues. And this is the real definition of reformation. This is why the promised Messiah and Hazrat Muslim Maud, you know, they were the promised reformers, and they came to reform people. So never ever down, do not quit, as the poem said, okay? When you have made a mistake, okay, there's always an opportunity to become a better person. And that is what is expected from you, to reform by practicing and worshipping through this means in order to bring you closer to Allah. May Allah enable all of us to reflect on these words and continue to reflect on the words of our beloved Khalifa, who does expect and who does demand greater things from us. We love our Khalifa. Some of us haven't seen our Khalifa for 2 years or so, or even much longer. And we desire so much to have a mulaqat with Hazur. Recently, there was a marvelous program called the God Summit back in early June. It was a tremendous program. It was a 2-day program that was full of inspirational stories. It was like a virtual mini Jalsa. And in that program, there were many inspiring stories, personal stories about the miracles of God, many stories that talk about the beautiful characteristics of God that we have to manifest in us in this life, to taste paradise in this life. And also there were many proofs of the existence of God. It was acclaimed, it was marveled, it was a great success with tens and thousands of viewers on that program. But when it comes to God, it's about coming closer to God. It's about the practice. We can gain knowledge. You know, we can hold lectures. We can show people what we may know. But until you actually practice all these moral virtues that are mentioned by our Khulafa, by the promised Messiah, by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, only then will such programs have real value. It's a tremendous program, but we have to fulfill our responsibilities by fulfilling the duties and rights of Allah the Almighty through avenues of worship. And today was the avenue of practicing moral values. May Allah enable all of us to understand this, to recognize this, so it can lead us to practicing it, so we can become moral and better spiritual people. Ameen. Jazakallah for listening to me today.
Jazakallah, Orchid Sahib. This is such an inspirational lecture. I mean, the bestow upon me the grace of prayer, hear my prayer in the stillness of night. The translation of that poem, or the poem itself, these references, some of them are rightly emphasize the importance of worship and the beauty of the Creator. It is important for one to reflect and stay steadfast to their spiritual progress. If he's okay, I mean, we've got some few questions from the viewers. Would it be okay to ask those questions, if you may?
Yes, please.
Okay. We've got one question. It says here, sometime we make a promise, but something advertently happens which is beyond our control. In that case, are we still answerable to God, or what is the explanation for it? So that's the question.
No, to me, the answer is fairly simple. As long as the most important thing, one of the most important things is your intention. If your intention was correct, then Allah will know that. If your intention was correct, but if it was deceiving, Allah will also know that, okay? But your intention has to be correct, even if some inadvertent action happens that doesn't allow you, let's say, to keep that promise. But nevertheless, when, let's say, promises are broken in one way or the other, Allah keeps the door open for you to, again, as I said, to re-emphasize, to reform yourself, as long as your actions are sincere. Allah is ready to forgive you. Even if you deliberately break a promise, Allah will still accept you. Leave that door open as long as your efforts are sincere with the correct intention.
Jazakallah for that. The other question here is, if one struggles to follow a routine of worship, i.e. namaz, what practical advice would you give for that individual?
I have been asked this question, a number of times, and the practical, formal way of saying namaz, yes, people do become, let's say, lazy or forgetful and don't prioritize it. But at the same time, if that is happening in their lives, but in their minds they know that, I should be saying prayers, yeah, at least that is something, okay? They know that they are supposed to be fulfilling the rights of Allah, but down to laziness and so forth, they can't. And this is why I always say that we all are on the same journey. We're all on the same path, some higher than others, and we have to assist those people. We have to pull them up. And again, this is why I'm saying that this platform that you have provided, and with which is encompassed within the nizam of our community, we are there to help people, to pull them up that particular path. So again, we are human beings. We do falter, but do not despair. Do not give up. Allah will be with you. If Allah is not with you, there are members around you, members of the Jamaat, who will guide you and assist you. So as I said, never ever despair. That door will never be closed on you. But as long as you're saying to yourself that, I should be saying my namaz, at least to me, I want to try and take the positive out of it. At least you know that you should be saying namaz. And inshallah, these habits, this is what in my lecture today I said, you have to cultivate it, you have to practice it, okay? Just like anything else. If you want to go skiing, if you want to go skydiving, you have to practice these things. Practice will make perfect. And the same thing applies to namaz. You have to understand, try to go and listen to that God Summit program, okay? If you're not convinced that God exists, then go to that program. You also have to love Allah. You have to educate yourself as well. So there's many, many strands, in order to pull you up, in order for you to get saying your prayers again. So again, if you feel that, I should be doing something that I shouldn't, at least there's a flicker of light, there's a flicker of hope there that eventually you will get onto saying your 5 daily prayers by practice. So practice makes perfect.
Jazakallah for that. There's another question asked by one of the viewers. What are the various ways of worship to fulfill the rights of Allah and humanity?
Um, Again, I'd like to think I kind of covered that to an extent. Um, but my quick summation to that is that anything that brings you closer to Allah, okay, anything that brings you closer to Allah is the answer to your question, okay? In terms of humanity, the two aspects of a Muslim, that is expected from us is Aquq Allah and Aquq al-Abad, yeah? Fulfilling the rights of Allah and fulfilling the rights of your fellow human being. One cannot live without the other, okay? If someone is so namazi, goes to the mosque all the time, but his behavior is unacceptable, he talks very rudely and disrespectfully, well, all the sawab he gets from saying namaz, it's lost, okay? So they both go hand in hand. And again, humanity, charity, we as Ahmadi Muslims living in this country, we are in such a fortunate position, We know where our next meal is coming from. But at the same time, there are people who are not so fortunate because they do not know where their next meal is going to come from. Of course, we can pray for them. That's certainly one act of worship. We can donate money. We can donate clothes. We can donate food. There's so many things we can do, to help humanity. And again, namaz. I mean, the moral values. This is what I'm trying to emphasize on. Tell me if look, for example, anger. Okay, anger, ghussa. Okay, anger. That's not part of taqwa. Okay, and if you get angry, okay, it will take you further away from Allah. Rather than anger, you should be showing gentleness and compassion and kindness and so forth. And everyone has anger. I've got anger. You've got anger. We all have anger. But the strongest person is one who can control his anger, okay? And direct his energies in a different direction. So again, for every one moral virtue, there's probably an opposite vice as well. But which one do you want to choose? It is your choice. It is your choice. I've already described these moral values are like virtue, like fruit hanging from a low-hanging tree. You can just pluck them. Okay, what's stopping you? You don't have to go to college in a 3-year course to study patience. It's inherent in you, and you learn from your mentors. You learn from the many lectures given by our beloved Khalifa, by your Sadrans, by your Amirs, and so forth. So again, luckily, we find ourselves in a community that relentlessly continues to always give you good, solid, righteous advice at all times. So there's many channels, but again, this is why I'm focusing on moral values, relationships between people. It's so important. It was even said that to mend relationships is more important than namaz and fasting as well. Okay, that's how important. When you mend relationship, you'll be showing good characteristics and good values to people. So again, focus on developing and practicing moral values like patience and kindness and gentleness and sympathy and forgiveness. Then you will be close to Allah.
Jazakallah, Nisar Sahib, for answering those questions. Dear viewers, I would like to thank you for watching the program. Please do let us know, the Talim team, what lectures would you like us to cover, or any particular topic, or wish to recommend a speaker. And if you have someone or whatever you would like to recommend, you can see the email on the screen. Please email your requests or suggestions. That would be fully appreciated. Any feedback, again, would be helpful. Um, just to let you know, the continuation of our lectures on Monday, Urdu lectures, and Tuesday, English lectures, as usual, in coming weeks. So at this point, can I request Nisar Sahib to lead us in the silence prayer, please?
My last few words are be happy and keep smiling. Please join me in a silent prayer. Amin.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Khuda Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.